The car's back on the road now. It's fine. In fact, driving it to see you, Ed, that's the farthest it's ever made it without ending up on a tow truck. So February 1st, 2020, I took delivery of my first Lamborghini. It was a Lamborghini Murcielago. I fell in love with that car from Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. The cover car for that game was the yellow Lamborghini Murcielago. I said if I was ever gonna buy one of them, it would be bright yellow Murcielago. And I don't like yellow cars that much. It's grown on me a little bit now. But yeah, I always was a red car guy, like red cars. If I was gonna buy one, it would be that one. You could say it was the best and the worst decision I ever made. Best as in like I couldn't recall like something that has brought me more joy personally in recent memory. On February 1st, I took delivery of it. It was exactly what I thought, and more. It was bright yellow, beautiful paint on the car. It had the Hercules wheels on it, which I already had sold and ready to be exchanged for the Speedline wheels that car came with from the factory. I just wanted the original launch color, original wheels. A running joke is like, because with Randy, he'll buy a car and immediately gets bigger wheels, bigger black wheels, lowered tint, like we call it Randyizing a car. And the moment it shows up, we're just like, it needs bigger wheels, lowered tint. And I'm like, no. It's gonna have the original wheels. I'm not lowering it. The tint is fine on it. I'm not gonna have it redone. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. It had a LOC exhaust, Lamborghini Orange County exhaust, which arguably is probably one of the best sounding ones out there. And the car just sounds magnificent. It is exactly what I always wanted. The question I get every single time that car is brought up is, why didn't you get a gated one? That's the hot thing at the moment, and for good reason. I mean, the gated cars are, especially if you find one that is sorted and well-maintained. There's a handful out there that obviously aren't, like any early 2000s exotic. One that is not terribly well-maintained can not be great to drive, but a sorted gated car, they're good. They're really good. But they're few and far between, and there's quite a high premium on those. I don't remember what exactly did it, but growing up, I always saw an exotic car or a supercar had paddles. I don't know where it was instilled. Maybe it was the racing game simulators I played that had the paddles on it, and when you drove an F1 car, you used the paddles. But it was instilled in me that an exotic supercar had paddle shifters. And the E-Gear system gets a lot of flack. And I gotta tell you, it's so cool. I think it's awesome. A lot of people tell me, no, it's not that great, it's jerky, and really it's not that pleasant to ride in, and it's not great for the clutch use, and these are all very valid things. Riding in that car is just treacherous. Even with the car not in sport mode, it jerks, pretty bad. Like, I mean, the Mercy, like the when you're taking off, but I love it. I love it because it's so much of a departure from a standard daily driving car. I mean, you downshift from like third to second. Greatest thing in the world is E-Gear Murcielago downshifts. The best thing in the world. Like, the gated feel is awesome, but when you're on the highway and you go click, click, and the car's best thing in the world. It's so different from a normal car. When it runs, it's a very special thing. When it's not, it's still a special thing, but I love it. So that's all that matters. It's never leaving me. I am the proud 9th owner of that car, and that is the way it's going to stay. Now, as much as I love the car, here are some of the things that have broken on it. It had a PPI done, but I should have had another PPI done. I'll put it that way. I looked at the PPI, it said everything is good, but I really should have had another PPI done on the car, and I ended up finding out all the fluids in the car were low. Other than that, I mean, the car was in decent shape, but it was strange all those fluids were low. I don't know what would do that, lack of maintenance, whatever. But the reason I mention this is because 14 days after having it, on Valentine's Day, ironically, the car, I went to go from second to third, and it just went into neutral. And at least that's what I thought. And limped it off the highway, pulled over, couldn't get it in any gear. It kind of seemed like it was in gear, but it kind of wasn't. It wasn't clear what the car was doing. There was no aero lights on the dash. No E-Gear light, just nothing. The car thought everything was fine. I had it trailered over to Loudoun County Exotics, which Oddly enough, I was 9 minutes from it when it happened, so call it fate. But, you know, the car went over there. They went into the car, and turns out the only thing that happened were the F1 pump actuator. The screws backed themselves out. Strange thing, the car managed to get stuck between second and third gear. They tightened up the screws. Apparently on 430s, this was a service bulletin, because from just just the general vibrations and general driving of the car, these screws had a tendency to back themselves out. It seemed like it was a freak accident. I got lucky. That was the takeaway with it. In fact, I think that was even the thumbnail. I wrote, "I got lucky" at the top of it. Then it happened again. And then it happened again. And it was in shorter and shorter intervals. And we figured out that this was a bigger problem. And what we were fearing was it was a problem with the transmission. Ended up getting another transmission for the car. And this was right when COVID hit, which was great. I ended up having the transmission I ordered. It took forever to get here. Then we installed the transmission after taking the engine out and doing everything. The transmission didn't go past first gear. Surprise, motor and trans comes back out again. We put both transmissions next to each other and figured out that there was actually a bent shift fork in my transmission. So we got the new parts for that. They took a millennia and a half to get over from Italy. They were installed, car ran fine again. And at that time, I think it was between all the back and forth between the transmission I had, and we had to send it back, and then the seller didn't want to take a return on it. So now I have a transmission that I have nothing to do with besides put on eBay. Still haven't done that yet. But that transmission is sitting. By the time the car finally got fixed after this first endeavor, I think it was sometime in July, I had it shipped down to Miami. We went to Miami for the summer. Randy had some business endeavors in Miami, so I followed him. We ended up spending almost the rest of the year there. He had a place at the Porsche Design Tower. I got a place not too far away, and I got to tell you, I had a lot of fun in Miami. The car got brought down there. It was really, really good until it wasn't, and it ended up on a tow truck because for whatever reason, I saw the battery light on the instrument cluster. I saw it started flickering. And the voltage on the battery said like 9 volts. I think it was supposed to be at 13 or 12, I knew it was wrong. I called Greg at Loudoun County Exotics, and he said, "Your alternator's probably going." So had it put on a truck. It was taken over to We Are Curated. They put a new alternator in it. You want to know how great Tamarian and their guys are? They moved, it was an SE30 and an F40 out of my way to change my alternator on a Saturday. God bless them. My car did not deserve that, but they made it happen. The alternator got changed for the weekend. Car was fine. And then a week and a half later, I thought the car just overheated slightly, but I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. Turns out the cause is not really known. There might have been an issue with some previous service that might have been done. It might have been just the fact that there were 8 other owners prior to me. It could have been the fact that I went to a drag strip with the car and it wheel hopped like 3 times when I took off. Like there's a lot of things that could have caused this, but essentially what I ended up doing was the idler crank pulley broke off the crankshaft, and it ended up milling the end of the crankshaft to the point where, yes, you could re-weld the end of the crankshaft on so you could bolt everything back together, but the likelihood it would run right again was quite low. I mean, the right thing to do would be engine and trans comes out, the whole engine gets taken apart, and because the car, like those motors, like they run hot to begin with. I mean, they're built to do so, but when they get hotter than they're supposed to, they get really hot. And unfortunately, my car, it started, I still don't think it really overheated, but I'm not going to find out. I don't want to know. I mean, right now that motor is going to be a coffee table. That motor would have been completely needed to be gone through to be rebuilt correctly. To get it done correctly would have been around like $35,000. And the easier thing to do was find another motor. So found a motor for the car, and it was everything checked out on the motor. It was a nice example, 25,000 miles. It came out of a Canadian car. And unfortunately, when I got the motor, there was a crack in it. So that was a hard conversation to have with the seller, but God bless him, like he actually took a refund on the motor. But before I got that refund, because I have zero patience whatsoever, I ended up buying another motor. It was a lot more money. It was ended up being in the neighborhood of about $27,000. The car's back on the road now. It's fine. In fact, driving it to see you, Ed, that's the farthest it's ever made it without ending up on a tow truck. Prior to this, I had driven the car a total of 3,000 miles. and had spent at least $30,000 to do that. By now, the car is now at 32,000 miles, 32,200 miles. Right in the neighborhood, parts and labor, a little over 50 grand. I'm gonna do a full total up on the Savage Garage channel because I wanna go through all the invoices because I'm sure it will be spectacular, and depending on how you define that word. But regardless, it's love-hate relationship with these cars. I love the thing to death. It's cost me so much more money than I thought it would. And everyone is going like, of course it is, duh. You bought like one of the cheapest Lambos you could possibly find and it's having issues. You get what you pay for. And you're right. Me and my infinite wisdom, I thought I would be the one guy who buys a Murcielago and doesn't have it sit in shop for months. And of course, surprise, I was wrong. At the end of the day, like, you drive the car again and it reminds you why you bought it in the first place. And it reminds you why you spend the money on the car. It reminds you why this hobby is just so incredible.
This time of year, I know a lot of us are trying to clean out our garages and maybe get rid of some things that we probably don't need. So if there's an extra set of wheels and tires sitting over in the corner, or an exhaust that you forgot to install, or a part you bought two of and forgot about that too, the best place to sell them is on ModFind. And likewise, if you're trying to find a part, new, used, aftermarket OEM for your car, truck, project, whatever, the best place to shop for those is also on ModFind. ModFind is a free app that you can download in the Android or iOS store, and that will allow you to buy, sell, transact, whatever you want to do, a car, a part, a tool, anything related to the automotive hobby. It also allows you to create a listing and then add a kickback to incentivize your followers to share it with their followers. They make it very easy to share to all the major social platforms, and we'd like to thank them for their support of VINwiki this month. Please go download their app today, buy, sell your parts. A few of mine are already listed there, and it's a great platform, and I cannot wait to see where they go from here.